For 20 years ending 12/31/2015, the S&P 500 index averaged 9.85% per year. The average equity fund investor earned a market return of only 5.19% during that time. While the stats continue to show the same trends, investors will continue to try to beat the market and continue to lose. Will they ever learn? Index fund investing has been proven to be the most successful way to invest for years. Let me show you my top 5 index funds. Hey guys, my name is Brennan, aka Budget Dog. On my channel, we discuss personal finance, financial freedom, and entrepreneurship. If you want to see more of my content and help out my channel, make sure you go subscribe to my channel below by hitting the subscribe button. It means a lot to me and helps out my family. Also, check out my links below for some more free resources that you guys can use today. Today we are going to cover my top 5 favorite index funds. I'm going to teach you what my top 5 index funds are, why I love these top 5 index funds, and how you can begin investing in the same index funds today. As a quick note, all funds discussed today are Vanguard specific funds as I work with them. If you work with a different broker such as Fidelity or Charles Schwab, it may not make sense to buy the same funds discussed throughout. However, you can buy the equivalent fund discussed today through your specific broker. The index fund that lands number 1 on my list is VTSAX. VTSAX is an index tracking the entire US equity market, including small, mid, and large cap growth and value stocks. With this fund, you get a nice blend of the entire United States stock market. It has an expense ratio of 0.04%, which means for every $10,000 invested, you only pay $4. As a quick rule of thumb, I personally never will go above 0.20% or 20 basis points when it comes to expense ratios. The number of stocks in this fund is 3,980. The mix of growth, value, small cap, mid cap, and large cap is a dream come true. The top 5 stocks include Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. Also, the United States stock market makes up about 50% of the global market, so this is the perfect fund to grab a share of that awesome market. You can own all of this for almost nothing. Can it get better than that? I don't think so. My personal portfolio consists of 68% VTSAX, and this is why VTSAX lands number 1 on my list. The index fund that lands number 2 on my list is VFIAX. VFIAX is an index tracking the top 500 US companies. Well, actually 507, which is mainly due to the parent companies that may be listed twice, such as Alphabet, Google's parent company, that has Class A and Class C shares. Within this fund, you get the vast majority of the United States stock market. You will not get the small and mid cap exposure as you would with VTSAX, but you will get the large cap exposure. And while this fund only holds 507 stocks opposed to VTSAX holding 3,980 stocks, the S&P 500 makes up about 80% of the total US stock market. As there is a lot of correlation between VTSAX and VFIAX, I believe it makes sense to choose between one of these personally. VFIAX has an expense ratio of 4 basis points, which means for every $10,000 invested, you only pay $4. The number of stocks, as I mentioned in this fund, is 507. This is your chance to own all of those Goliath companies within the US market at a very low cost. The top 5 stocks, to no surprise, are the same as VTSAX: Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. I truly believe owning VTSAX or VFIAX is one of the best things any new investor could do, and this is why VFIAX lands number 2 on my list. My number 3 index fund is VTIAX. VTIAX is an index fund providing exposure to both developed and emerging international economies. Sure, the United States accounts for about 50% of the global economy, but it's not the end-all be-all. There are many excellent companies located outside of the United States, and that is why I personally love VTIAX. It has an expense ratio of 11 basis points, which means for every $10,000 invested, you only pay $11. The number of stocks in this fund is 7,621. The mix of Europe, Pacific, Middle East, emerging markets, and even a little bit of North America makes this fund an investor's paradise. The top 5 stocks include Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, Tencent Holdings, Samsung, Nestle, and ASML Holding. As a global investor, I believe it is important to buy the haystack to an extent. There are also many risks present to us, such as market risk, political risk, and even currency risks. Not accounting for the other 50% of the world seems very short-sighted to me. If you take a look back into history, you will see that the US and international have fought for the top spot many of times. I would rather diversify myself across the entire market than only betting on one side of the market. My personal portfolio consists of 25% of VTX, and this is why VTX lands number 3 on my list. My number 4 index fund is VEMAX. VEMAX is an index fund that offers investors a low-cost way to gain equity exposure to emerging markets. The fund invests in stocks of companies located in emerging markets around the world such as Brazil, Russia, India, Taiwan, and China. Stocks of companies in emerging markets tend to be more volatile than those in developed countries, which could imply the potential for greater long-term return. Along with this potential, however, comes risks such as currency and political risk. This is a great fund to consider for long-term, risk-tolerant investors who want to diversify their international portfolio. I personally love this fund at the moment because of where we sit historically. Some of the brightest minds in the world, such as Ray Dalio, love emerging markets. Emerging markets do tend to be more volatile, but over longer periods, they do tend to outperform. And even though global economies are now more connected than ever, there are still diversification benefits to investing in emerging markets. The International Monetary Fund forecasts average annual GDP growth of 5.5% for emerging markets from 2021 to 2023, compared with 3.5% for advanced economies. VEMAX has an expense ratio of 14 basis points, which means for every $10,000 invested, you only pay $14. The number of stocks in this fund is 5,235, and the top 5 stocks include Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, Tencent Holdings, Alibaba, Meituan, and Reliance Industries, and this is why VEMAX lands number 4 on my list. My number 5 index fund is VTWAX. VTWAX is an index fund that offers investors a low-cost way to gain equity exposure to stock markets around the globe, including the United States, developed, and foreign and emerging markets. If you took VTSAX, VTIAX, and VEMAX and had a baby, VTWAX would be that. This is a mix of them all. It has an expense ratio of 10 basis points, which means for every $10,000 invested, you only pay $10. The number of stocks in this fund is 8,847 stocks, and the top 5 stocks include Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. I love VTWAX so much that I modeled my personal portfolio to be very similar. While VTWAX is about 60% all US, 30% all international, and 10% emerging markets, my personal stock portfolio is 68% VTSAX, 25% VTIAX, and 7% VEMAX. However, given VTIAX alone holds 25% of emerging markets, my true exposure is 68% United States, 19.5% international excluding emerging markets, and 12.5% emerging markets. This portfolio structure provides me with a long-term untouchable model. Of course, as I age and my risk changes, my allocations will change accordingly, but my strategy will remain. I also set my portfolio manually by using the power of these 3 index funds. By doing so, this lowered the overall expense ratio by approximately 3 basis points. I also retain more control on my allocations at any given point in time. If you want to begin investing in these funds today, you can open an investment account like a Roth IRA or taxable brokerage account through Vanguard. Select the funds that you prefer and choose the contribution amount you want to invest in within that account. For example, I will show you just how easy it is to begin with a Roth IRA. Step 1. Go to Vanguard.com. Step 2. Click on Personal Investors. Step 3. Click the Investing drop-down. Step 4. Click IRAs, Roth and Traditional. Step 5. Click Open IRA today. Step 6. Once the account is open, select the funds that you would like. For example, here is VTSAX. So let's wrap this up. If you're looking to invest, one of the best ways to do this is to invest in low-cost index funds. However, your situation matters. Age, investment horizon, risk meter, allocations, etc. are all critical factors when assessing your investment portfolio. Make sure to assess your situation before investing. I would love to know what your favorite index funds are in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.